And with that, we will begin our worship service. And Karen Madison will lead our call to worship.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you, even remotely, or maybe especially remotely, since it's about the only way that we can be together these days. I wanted to start our worship service this morning with a reading from our UU hymnal, excerpt from it anyway. It's written by one of our colleagues, long departed, who's given much of his talent as a poet to us in our Unitarian Universalist lives, and we cherish them still. So we begin. When holidays and holy days and such times come, when anniversaries arrive by calendar or consciousness, when seasons come as seasons do, old and known, but somehow new, mark the time. Respond with thought or prayer or smile or song. Let nothing living slip between the fingers of the mind, for all of these are holy things we may not find again. And now Ken will light the flame in our chalice to mark the time of this, our gathering for worship.
Matt can contribute.
So today's Labor Day. Well, tomorrow's Labor Day. This is, I guess, Labor Day Eve, you would say. And Labor Day is one of those holidays that arrives by calendar, as Max Kuth tells us. It arrives on the first Monday of September in every year. And I didn't really know. I knew the labor movement was honored Labor Day, and we'll do a little bit about that in a minute. But I didn't realize that it started, Labor Day was started as far back as 1894. Before that, actually, but that's when President Grover Cleveland declared it a federal holiday. The Union organized rallies and parades in many towns. They honored workers who were part of unions or guilds, I guess, before that. Carpenters and joiners and plumbers and teachers and even letter carriers were organized in unions, even as early as that. And another one of the more troublesome of unions from those early days and from then till the decline of the labor movement were coal miners. And I chose this video, this 1941 video for us today because we honor working people, but also are mindful that we have this special time to do that because of the union movement. It's not without its controversy and struggles. Some of us are pro-union and some maybe not so much. We know that there have been excesses and reasons to be suspicious and even dislike unions. But it's good to be reminded from time to time of all that unions have done for workers in so many, many areas and places and times in our nation. And this video reminds us of the 1930s unrest among coal miners in Harlan County, Kentucky. And I believe the singer on the video of Which Side Are You On is actually Pete Seeger, although the video doesn't tell us that. So let's hear a little bit of that song and see a few images from that time and place.
Come all of you good workers, good news to you I'll tell, of how the good old Union has come in here to dwell.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
My daddy was a miner and I'm a miner's son, and I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me how you can. Will you be a lousy scab or will you be a man?
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
Don't scab for the bosses, don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
I don't know if you noticed in that video, but one of the things that struck me about it was how much it resembles some of the very things happening today. Not necessarily people in the streets because of union struggles, but basically struggling for fairness and for equity for people of color, women, undocumented workers, people who are working in our nation, in our country, and whether they're not union or not, whether essential workers or just all who labor, we remember them and honor them this day, this Labor Day Eve, and again tomorrow, and hope you all have a paid holiday. Ken?
Now will be the time.
One of the things that I treasure about our weekly gatherings are the things that are routine. The lighting of the chalice, the stones, and of course the joys and concerns, the stories that we hear from one another about what's happening in our lives. I welcome too the invitation that's often offered for a time of silence after the joys and concerns, a time when we can remember those people that have shared something with us, as well as kind of think about the joys, the pleasures and challenges in our own lives. Anne Morrow Lindbergh wrote this: "It's not physical solitude that actually separates us from others. It is not the desert island or the stony wilderness that cuts you off from people you love, or even COVID-19, I'd add." She says it is the wilderness in the mind, the desert in the heart, through which one wanders lost and a stranger. I thought in our quiet time today, it might be good to remember that we need not be lost or a stranger, but that we're all part of this beloved community of memory and hope. And so in these moments of silence, know that though each of us is apart, each in our own home and space, all staring at our computer screens, that there's something deeper than that, something deep that holds us in one heart and one spirit together in community. And so let this silence be a time of recalling the ways we're connected and reaching out with our minds and hearts to one another for just a few moments. And following that, Becky and Emma Suzek will sing for us. Let the music bring us back together once again.
When holding your breath is safer than breathing, when letting go is braver than keeping, when innocent words turn to lies, and you can't hide by closing your eyes, when the pain is all that they offer, like a kiss from the lips of a monster. You know the famine so well, you've never met the feast, and home is the bed of the beast. The ocean is wild and over your head, and the boat beneath you is sinking. Don't need room for your bags, hope is all that you have. So say the Lord's Prayer twice, hold your babies tight. Surely someone will reach out a hand and show you a safe place to land. Oh, imagine yourself in a building, up in flames, being told to stand still. The windows wide open, the sleep is unfair. You don't know who will catch you, maybe somebody will. The ocean is wild and over your head, and the boat beneath you is sinking. Don't need room for your bags, hope is all that you have. So say the Lord's Prayer twice, hold your babies tight. Surely someone will reach out a hand and show you a safe place to land. Be the hand of a hopeful stranger, a little scared but you're strong enough. Be the light in the dark of this danger till the sun comes up. Be the hand
Thank you for that beautiful duet, Emma and Becky. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. Then the plowman said, "Speak to us of work." And he answered, saying, "Always you have been told that work is a curse and labor a misfortune. But I say to you that when you work, you fulfill a part of the earth's furthest dream, assigned to you when that dream was born. And in keeping yourself with labor, you are in truth loving life. And to love life through labor is to be intimate with life's innermost secret. All work is empty, save when there is love. And what is it to work with love? It is to weave cloth with threads drawn from your heart. It is to build a house with affection. It is to sow seeds with tenderness and reap the harvest with joy. It is to charge all things you fashion with a breath of your own spirit.
Thank you, Ken. That image of work, as beautiful as it is, for many of us, might be a little hard to really figure out how that fit into our lives and our work. But the first line of that excerpt from the prophet says, "Always you have been told that work is a curse and labor a misfortune." And in truth, we know the story that comes from. We remember the story. So when Adam and Eve ate the apple, God punished them. Eve got to have painful childbirth, and Adam a life of toil and sweat just to survive in this world, his world, in this place that was no longer Eden. It's a pretty grim picture. And the truth is that despite Gibran's poetry, work has been, for many, if not most of people throughout human history, more like Adam's experience than Gibran's experience. It's true today in some parts of the world that toil and sweat and grief are part of work. And there are places not so far from where we live that are like that as well. It isn't the whole story. And I guess it's not the case for most of us. We are, I think in general, I'm safe to say, among the most fortunate ones, because we've learned at firsthand in our lives that work, yes, can be drudgery, but it can also be fulfilling. And work can be hard. And the very hardness of that work makes it satisfying when we've done it. Work is difficult, exhausting, and when we've worked, we feel good. Work can be done simply to give us a wage, and that's a reward. But an even greater reward is when our work gives us a sense of purpose too. Because the truth, work is a defining, maybe the defining human activity. Whether it's easy or hard or good or bad, whether you do it for pay or not, to be human is to work. But there's something else too. The other side of that coin is the work we do also defines who we are as human beings. Work is a really important part of our identities. I wasn't so sure about that till I retired. And some of you may have had that experience when, what do you mean I'm no longer a whatever? And we're no longer doing the work, but we can't stop thinking of ourselves in terms of that work that defined our lives, and more than that, defined us. Another way you can think about it, if you've never had the experience of retiring, and whether you were one of those people that when you retired, you never wanted to think another day about what you did for a living, and I've known some people like that. But if you think for a minute about how we get to know people where you're just meeting, and you can think back months and months ago when we were all in coffee hour together, and we were meeting people and we didn't know them well, and we were exchanging pleasantries, and we talked about the weather and traffic and such like that. And then I can't quantify it, but I would bet that most of the time the next words that came out of our mouths were, and hey, what do you do? Where do you work? We ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Are we really interested in what a 7-year-old wants to be for a living? Or do we want to know what kind of people they think they want to be? Even though they'll change and they'll grow and learn, and we don't necessarily take it at face value. The lucky ones of us get to do that, grow and learn all through our lives. And so our identities, who we are becoming and eventually become, is layered with experiences. And we are among the privileged who have then been able to form and grow an identity around what it is that we have done in our work lives. So whether we think of what we do as a profession or a career or a job or a calling, and even sometimes an avocation, work is our identity. It's how others get to know us and how we even come to know ourselves sometimes. And that's where the idea for this service began. In a brief conversation before one of our discussion groups, Dave Ritter, thank you, Dave, asked us to go around the circle of people who had gathered and to introduce ourselves by saying something about the work we do, or if we retired, the work that we once did. And you know, in that few minutes, maybe 5 minutes altogether that we shared, I felt more connected to those people and also to this community and certainly to that discussion group. And so I thought, while connections are so much harder to make, we don't have coffee hours, we don't have those lovely dinners and other ways when we can sit down and get to know each other, that maybe today, on Labor Day weekend of all times, was the best time to create a service where we could share something about our work lives and get to know each other better. And maybe even these conversations will carry on in other ways that we gather in the months, well, hopefully not too many months, weeks at least to come. Fortunately, a few of you beautiful members of this congregation have offered to share something with the rest of us about the work in your lives. And I'm looking forward to hearing them, and we will know you better from what you are willing to share with us today. And if time permits, we can do a little more. Some of you who weren't quite ready to do that might want to say a few words at the end. And so Steve McDaniel is going to start us off by sharing something with us about his work. Hi, Steve.
Okay. I'm unmuted. All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a glorious day, really. Sharon and I went walking this morning. It was much, much cooler. I'm so glad. But work is defined in many, many ways. My definition, my attitude, my experience of work was originally shaped by my father. Many of yours was too. My dad was born in 1917 in Washington State. He came up during the Depression, the youngest of 5 children on a farm. He learned to work hard. He was the only one in the family who went on to college. He worked his way through the University of Washington in various jobs. He worked at a slaughterhouse for a while, but he told me that the best job was washing dishes at the sorority house, where he slept in the basement as part of the pay. Doesn't sound like too bad a job. He met my mother in Boston as a Navy lieutenant during the war. They produced 7 children. Talk about work. He taught history and science in high school and junior high. But after school, on weekends, summers, he put us to work, the boys, 5 boys. We worked doing landscaping, tree work, and moving. We learned to work hard. That was my introduction to the world of work. Since then, I've had a lot of different jobs. Started as a soda jerk at a drugstore. You could get a Coke for a nickel. I was a radio man in the Navy, a preventive maintenance scheduler in college, short order breakfast cook in Maine. I cooked 35,000 eggs at Helen's restaurant in Machias, Maine. I was Santa Claus at a mall. That didn't work out too well. I didn't really like having a crying child handed to me. I didn't like it at all. I recruited students for truck driving school. I installed blinds and drapes. But all of those were stopgap jobs, just to make money. My career type job, just like my father, was teaching. I was an industrial arts teacher, a shop teacher. There aren't too many of those left anymore. I began teaching in Caribou, Maine, way up near the Canadian border. We had a wonderful setup, a brand new building, a great staff, a state-of-the-art program, which included woodworking, metalworking, foundry. We poured molten aluminum every week. There were small engines, photography with our own darkroom, ceramics with our own kiln, thermoforming, extruding plastic, and electronics. And the best thing was back in 1981, we had all the boys and all the girls in class. The home ec teachers didn't like that at all. They didn't want the boys in their classes. After Caribou, I moved to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, to teach metalworking again in a junior high school. That was an abrupt change in climate and program, to say the least. It was as much a learning experience as a teaching experience in what was essentially a third world country with a rather poor school system. 6 years later, we returned to the States to teach here in Raleigh at Carroll Middle School. But I found it very difficult to have a shop in 2 trailers, 2 separate rooms really, with 25 or more students at a time. That ended my teaching career. I took a job building and installing signs, which put my skills in woodworking, metalworking, and electricity to good use. We made sandblasted redwood signs, granite signs, neon signs, and installed them all over North Carolina and many other states. A lot of the golf courses right close by around here have our sandblasted granite signs. It was a great group of people to work with. In 1999, Sharon and I were having a house built, but we were not seeing eye to eye with the builder. So I quit the sign job and took over the contracting of the house. I figured I'd save as much as I was being paid and get the house the way we wanted it in the process. The final chapter, that led to the final chapter in my working history, which was carpentry on my own. I hooked up with a fella named Tom Towsley and worked with him for the next 10 or 12 years, trimming houses, and building decks all around the area. It was a great time, a good job. The recession in 2008 slowed things down tremendously, and there was very little work. But I was about to take on another and entirely different line of work, that of caregiver. We took my parents in from Massachusetts in 2009. They were in their 90s. They lived with us for 7 years, and we got a glimpse of what our own lives might be like in our coming years. I don't think I'd change anything about my working life, except wishing I'd made more money. But even that would have changed what happened, so I'll remain content. I worked to support my family, raise my children. I worked for the personal satisfaction of sharing my knowledge with students and creating some beautiful things that will last a long time, including the remodeling of our church building. I made a contribution to society with my work, and I'm proud of it.
Thank you,
That's
Steve.
it.
Becky, you're up.
An American rite of passage was thrust upon me this week, incoming through my mailbox. I received my welcome letter to the AARP, the American Association of Ripe People. Fortunately, my elder daughter, Abby, she had already helped me reframe my association with this, well, association. When a few months ago, my husband and then my best friend went through their own painful mailbox initiations. In fact, for my husband, I actually hid his letters because they really peeved him. Abby and I discussed the common myth of aging, the myth that leads the majority of Americans to cringe or doubt or deny their aging in association with, well, this association, and in turn also the outright denial, a betrayal of the blessings aging affords. So I am now officially an American associated ripe person, ripe of age, mind, body, and spirit, perhaps ripe enough to try to steer the direction of the last, if I'm so blessed, third of my life. I carry tremendous gratitude for my children, the greatest teachers of my life, and especially Emma right now, as when I'm reminded when she was younger, she would often remind me when I would do things that didn't seem like me. Once in the bathroom, she watched me put on very heavy makeup and afterwards diplomatically said, "You look beautiful, but you always look beautiful. You just don't look like the real you anymore." You remember that? And for a few weeks afterwards, I reflected on why I wore makeup in the first place. And was it to please others or was it to please myself? Emma, my daughter, the Zen master, gifted at delivering cones, Zen Buddhist puzzles that left me contemplating and reconsidering things, sometimes for months. Emma also has a gift of reminding people of who they truly are, and I'm grateful. So now here I am, age 50, a newly initiated, aspiring, rising rank member of the AARP. I honor the work roles that I've held as a daughter, a sister, a student, a writer, a communicator, a singer, a mother, a volunteer, an activist, a wife, and now perhaps a religious scholar and minister. I feel called to honor the stirrings my heart has held for years. And next weekend, I begin a 2-year ministerial program that will take my heart mind into different and some new to me faith traditions. This is a new adventure made possible because of Corona. This next stage of my life and elder becoming curiosity is made possible by some of you as well, and my community, my extended community, as in order to do this, I needed monetary support, and for this I am profoundly grateful. Joseph Campbell wrote, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." And I remind my daughters, while reminding myself, that the greatest gifts we have lie right beside our wounds. And to truly follow the path that leads towards fully becoming ourselves, we must have the conviction to learn and try new things, while cultivating the courage to overcome adversities and those inner voices that often lie and try to hold us back, to keep us safe, simultaneously preventing us from truly becoming ourselves. So I say to us all, may we never accept every abbreviation or myth as it purports to be, but instead deflect to curiosity, wonder, and imagination, towards possibilities and ideas that feel resonant and good to each of us, to raise us up into becoming more of who we are meant to be.
I've asked Emma to participate with us because we're a multi-generational community, and to know each other, maybe those of us who tend to not be as because of age and different groups quite as well known. So Emma, thank you for being here today.
When I was first told about this prompt, I found the paradox kind of ironic. Talk about your perspective as you're working towards a new phase of your life and the influence the change has had on you. The phrase moving forward in general has an entire new meaning to me. It's difficult to feel that things have changed at all when you've been in the same physical place for almost 6 months. Initially, 2020 was supposed to be my year. On December 31st, 2019, I made a video for myself talking about everything that was about to change for me. Attending Franklin Academy since kindergarten, I was finally realizing that that part of my life was about to get wrapped up. The school, the people, the environment that I grew up in, all of that hard work was about to get tied up with a pretty bow and put away, remembered only by the cap and gown. In this video, I talked about how different things would be around the same time the following year. I'll be in college with new friends, working towards a new goal, a new everything. Obviously, my senior year didn't go as I imagined. I didn't get that picturesque senior season with field trips, concerts, the senior trip, the throwing of graduation caps, surrounded by all the people I've known for so long. Instead, I literally picked up my diploma from my school lobby, wearing a mask as I was handed the folder and then told next as I left for my car. I watched a picture of myself pass on a screen as they said, Emma Jane Suzik, and then moved on with the other S's. I started filling out loan agreements telling me how much money I'd be paying per month for the next 10 years based on my career choice. Instead of being tied up with a pretty bow, my senior year, the supposed transition from high school to college, was pretty much just a checkbox, or maybe a box with a question mark beside it. March 13th was a normal day at school, so when I finally got home and was told that school was canceled, I was angry, confused. I didn't get my final musical, senior celebration, senior field trip, final choir competitions, yearbook signatures, all of that hard work that had led me up to senior year, and it almost felt like a waste. And for what, a virus? It all seemed ridiculous to me. It was hard to accept that my graduation was going to be projected on a screen, or that I had to send my friends a virtual link to sign my yearbook. The next couple of months were honestly a blur for me. The seniors were told that our grades were already final, but we were encouraged to participate in distance learning. I stuck with this strenuous schedule for a while until slacking off towards the end of June. There were no penalties, no rewards, just the satisfaction of working towards the end of the school year, I guess. Finally, towards the end of July, the musical officially got canceled. In a way, I feel that the musical was the last tie that I had to my high school. If you know me, you know how important theater is to me. Since my long-term plan is not to major in theater, the final musical was preparing me to check off that box, at least for now, and grow to focus on the stronger aspects of my future in elementary education. We had worked on this musical since July of 2019, and all of that dedication and time seemed to have led nowhere. Around the time of the musical cancellation, my theater teacher reached out to all of us, encouraging us to still find time to complete the following assignment. Pick your favorite quote that helps to inspire you during this time and write it somewhere where you can see it every day. I picked a quote from The Addams Family, the musical we had been working on for so long. The quote reads, "Only at our lowest can we rise above." Seeing this quote from a musical I was no longer performing in the context of the current situation was oddly inspiring for me. I felt a strong sense of gratitude to have had the experiences that I was able to have despite everything. I was given lots of time to reflect on what it all led up to. I was given more personal reflection time than anybody had wanted. I was given the opportunity to disappear into the woods with my ukulele and write songs, to learn that I was obsessed with mini sweet bell peppers, and to gain such a strong love for teaching and brain development in youth, to learn how to correctly type on a keyboard. I was able to sign up for college courses, figure out what the heck the random LBST 3000 PSYC numbers and abbreviations stand for, and even buy my own silverware. So moving forward, working towards my next goal, what does that mean? Google defines that phrase as an advancement in position or progress. So although I have been sitting in the same office chair for the past 6 months, using the same crappy, claiming to be HD camera quality to attend Zoom sessions, constantly getting confused on why my audio still isn't working, and entertaining myself by downloading this weird desktop app that's a literal goose that follows your mouse around trying to eat it, I feel that maybe I've moved forward in ways that I wouldn't have if I had a normal graduation. I was forced into independence faster in ways that nobody expected. And now writing for this specific group, this group of people that have inspired my sense of wisdom since I was little, I ironically feel like I'm almost presenting a modified valedictorian speech. Like I should dramatically turn my head so that my tassel moves into my face as I say very deep inspirational things to wrap up my final high school career. But somehow talking to this group when I start college classes tomorrow morning from home is more meaningful to me than any dramatic high school speech with the annoying tassel in my face could have been. Which I thank you for. I thank you for sending me a hymnal to celebrate my graduation. I thank you for watching me at the church talent show when I was 13 when I decided it somehow made logical sense to perform a song holding an Angelina ballerina puppet. For letting me help your kids grow through babysitting, and for always giving in and buying Girl Scout cookies for me and my sister. So maybe this is a dramatic graduation speech. Maybe you're inspired. Maybe you're confused on how far I strayed away from the actual prompt. Or maybe you're just interested in how to download the desktop goose. But I hope you can at least take a breath and learn to find peace with yourself and what you've accomplished during 2020.
And our final speaker, by no means final person to us in our community, is Cindy. Cindy.
There. Well, good morning, everyone. And my segue from Emma is that she and I had a couple of really great Halloween scaring the crap out of everybody who came to the haunted nursery. So anyway, thanks to my three predecessors here, I decided to talk about not my day job. Karen wondered if I might talk about my work in music. And so here goes. I'll be reading, so I don't know what my eye contact will look like, but anyway. What is the work I do? I make music. I love to sing and play piano. And for the last 25 years, I like to think I have built community through music. I have had church music jobs pretty consistently for over 50 years, if you can believe it. I got my start in, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, playing piano for the Christmas cantatas at the Wake Union Baptist Church when my dad was in seminary in Wake Forest. In junior high school, when we moved to Danville, Virginia, I left babysitting behind and made my spending money teaching piano students. And I continued studying piano. Then I added organ when I was in the 11th grade. And it really increased my earning potential. So I was now able to play for weddings, lots of weddings, and work as a church organist at the church where my dad was the minister. So when I went off to college, I decided to major in music education with organ as my instrument. I liked my choral conducting class, but I really loved my student teaching at 2 Wake County elementary schools. After college, I continued playing organ at several local churches, Sacred Heart Cathedral, Millbrook Baptist Church, and Martin Street Baptist Church, an African-American congregation in Raleigh. I also, as a member at Pullen Memorial Baptist Church on Wednesday nights, taught the weekly children's music class. And also at that same time, I was awakening more and more to issues of justice, particularly racial justice. During the late 80s and early 90s, I was also embarking on a spiritual journey that led me away from traditional organized Protestant religion. I began to see the divinity within all of us, and my view of an external God was totally replaced with a new spirituality. Around this time, I was also coming out and continuing to make church music in the organized church wasn't really feeling like home for me anymore. So as I was leaving church music and was also coming out, a friend invited me to join the Common Woman Chorus, a feminist chorus in Durham with a rich repertoire of cause music, music that affirmed women's diverse experience, workers' music, and liberal music. We practiced at the ERUF, and so that was also a time when I began to get to know UUs. With the Common Woman Chorus, I enjoyed singing with the group and then became its director when the founding director retired. The job sort of found me, and I really thrived as a teacher and a community builder. As I mentioned, through the Common Woman Chorus, I got to know UUs, including Abby Majeska, who was a member at UUPF. She asked me to fill in for her on piano at the fellowship while we were still meeting at Pullen House. And I began playing more and more, and shortly after we moved to Watkins Road, both she and Loretta Mershon, the choir director, decided to retire. I applied for the job of accompanist and choir director at that time and have been here ever since. I like to think my skills have been put to good use at UUPF. I have enjoyed working with the choir, and I beamed with pride one Sunday when our guest speaker said he had heard that Peace Fellowship was known for its strong congregational singing. I feel I should end what I'm saying about my work in music by saying that COVID-19 has presented challenges for all of us who make music in the corporate space. The choir has stuck it out on Zoom, God love them, and has learned technology to provide recordings of hymns for our weekly services, like the closing hymn in today's service. We've had a mix of successes and not successes, but have persevered and held tightly to each other each week when we share our joys and concerns during rehearsal. Right now, we're looking so forward to cooler temperatures that will allow us to rehearse under the shelter at peace and to sing together in person. So what has making music as work meant for me? Just want to say I love making music, and I love making music with and for others. I'm looking forward to getting back to doing it in person. I didn't plan any of my work in music. I just put the tools, my musical tools, my teaching tools, and my connecting tools into practice when I saw a need that I could fill, or when an invitation was issued to me. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Thank you, Cindy. Cindy, you love to make music, and we love your music. A few times that I've had the privilege of working on services and preparing them for Peace Fellowship, Cindy every single time just came up with the perfect musical accompaniment on very little information, because usually by the time I was describing to her what I planned for the service, it was very, very vague and not terribly well thought out. And she came through every time. Thank you for that. And thank all of you who shared your stories. And I wish we had a couple more hours, because I know among you there are many, many more wonderful stories, ways that we could get to know you through your sharing them with us. Since it's just about 11:30 now, and I don't think our erstwhile folks who are helping this service happen are going to be too happy going over the service. I just hope that we'll have other opportunities. I'm not sure what they are now. Maybe just at some point in the future, we'll hear more from each other, from those of you, all your beautiful faces. It's been wonderful to see. And I imagine there are experiences and life stories that are just waiting for us to hear about. So with that, we will bring this service to a close and hear the choir sing their closing hymn and invite us to sing along with them, I believe. So Be Ours a Religion is the name of the hymn, and the words will be on your screen.
Which like sunshine was everywhere in its temple space, its shrine, the good heart, its creed of truth, its mutual words of love. Be ours a religion which like sunshine goes everywhere in its temple space, its shrine of good heart, its creed of truth, its mutual words of love.
Steve has our closing words. Steve?
Our closing words today are from Marge Piercy. I want to be with people who submerge in the task, who go into the fields to harvest and work in a row and pass the bags along, who stand in the line and haul in their places, who are not parlor generals and field deserters, but move in a common rhythm when the food must come in or the fire must be put out. The work of the world is common as mud. Botched, it smears the hands, crumbles to dust. But the thing worth doing well done has a shape that satisfies, clean and evident. Greek amphoras for wine or oil, Hopi vases that held corn are put in museums, but you know they were made to be used. The pitcher cries for water to carry, and a person for work that is real.
Amen. Thank you.
As we extinguish the flame that has lighted our way this morning, let us virtually join hands as we recite our traditional Peace Fellowship blessing. Bless us with hope. Bless us with care. Bless us with love. Bless all we share.
Blessed be.
Amen.
Amen.
Shalom.
Salam. Namaste.
Namaste.
Our service this morning is ended. Please stay with us as Becky leads us in a discussion about